G'day viewers, my name's Graham Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists in Australia do what they do. Well, good day viewers and welcome back to Colour in Your Life. We're down in your lawn in Victoria. It's down near the Latrobe Valley and we're with a very talented lady today, Carolyn Henry. Carolyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Graham.
Carolyn's a scratchboard artist. Now we have not had a scratchboard artist on the series beforehand, so I think this is going to be a really interesting show today. You've actually been shortlisted for the Doug Moran Prize.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously entered into the Archibald and actually won a couple of the other prizes down in the Victoria area. The whole concept of this I think is quite amazing, where you're just literally taking the white underneath, and let's just explain that a little bit before we go along. Now it's an ampersand board, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And what it is that, well, just explain it to us, that this is actually a layer of clay on top of it, is it?
Yeah, you've got a hard board underneath.
You can see that there.
They put a fine layer of white clay on that. Then they roll some black ink out over the top. Mm-hmm. And it's as we take away the black ink, you start to see the white underneath. So you're working in reverse to your normal drawing techniques. Okay,
but we're going to work with Carolyn today on producing, and as you can see, she's got 3 pieces in various stages of completion here, which is what we do occasionally to so that you guys can see what's going on. And this particular one here, I mean, literally it's just a flat black surface, and then from there you actually draw on your particular piece. Now, in saying that, do you use tracing paper for that, or you just free draw it?
No, you're better off, because this medium's unforgiving. If you put marks anywhere, you don't want to be wiping off. So strongly suggest is to draw up your piece first, and I've gridded this one up because hands are very difficult to get right.
Sure.
So then I use some white carbon paper.
There you go.
As opposed to your normal black carbon paper.
There you go.
Yes, and you place that on your board, drawing on top, and trace around, and you'll be left with your image.
So you actually traced around this then, do you?
Yes.
Is that correct? Oh, okay.
Yes, that's right. Early on I tried drawing straight on with white Conte crayon, but it's very messy, and as you're working sometimes it comes off. So this is a better product. So
all right, well what we're going to do is we're going to go from here and start on this particular one here today. The actual effects that you can get, I mean the subtlety of this is just magnificent, it really is. But let's make a start on this one, and then I'll bombard you with some questions as we go along.
The first thing you need to realise is that the oil in your hands will transfer onto the ink. So I've got a favourite little piece of felt. Some artists will use a pair of white gloves and they'll cut the fingers out, but this is just what I prefer. If you're using tissues, make sure they don't have an oil impregnated in them. That will end up on your ink. You will get some scratching as you go, but once you spray these later with the varnish, they'll all disappear.
Well, what we might do is we might clean this out for you so that you've got a free bench to work on, and I'll step back and I'll start asking some more questions.
No worries.
Okay. All right, well, because we're still developing pictures, ideas, portraits, which you obviously enjoy doing.
Yes.
Carolyn's one of the few people that actually does portraits in scratchboard. A lot of people do landscapes or animals. But there are certain types of tools that you will use, and they're not obviously spatulas and paintbrushes, are they?
No.
Not at all. So give us a look at some of the tools that you actually use to produce all of this. So you've got quite a sharp-looking scalpel there. A lot of your work is literally done on the tip, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. And they will blunt.
Yeah.
I have to put a new blade in for every piece I do.
Okay. Is this the only type of equipment that you would use for doing this, or are there others?
There are others. This is the main one I'm using at the moment because I can get some really fine little lines. Whoops. So that you just get a nice little scratch.
Oh, so it does come off reasonably easy then, does it?
Yeah, it's just taking away the ink and very fine.
And it's really, there's obviously a huge amount of patience involved in what you do as well.
Absolutely. That's why most people do animals, because animal fur is nice and quick and long. There is layering involved, which I'll explain later, but this is another tool. It's actually an ampersand tool, which is the company that makes the boards. They have a range of tools, and this is one. It's like a pen. And also, what about the scratchboard? I like to call it etching without chemicals. You can do this at your kitchen table. It's lovely and portable, and you don't have to have the cleanup of your brushes. You don't have chemicals around. You can be having toddlers around your feet and still, well, except for the scalpels, you can still do the work.
Just a little bit of black dandruff on their head.
Yes. My other favourite tool that my husband actually made, you can buy a basic pointy tool, but I found that the metal was very soft. And I was constantly sharpening. So my husband's got some very hard wire. He sharpened it, embedded it into a bit of dowel for me. And I've actually given these to quite a few people who do scratchboarding. The beauty of the point, unlike scalpel, is one direction. The beauty of the point is I can do a lot more directions, a lot easier.
But the amazing part about it is actually when you look at it, I'll just pick this piece up here again, is that the really extraordinary tonal effects that you can actually get. Now, Carolyn's going to work on this piece later on, put a little bit of ink in there, but you can literally see that these amazing tonal effects that you can get within these pieces, which is just amazing, it really is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to step back out of the way so that the camera can get a better shot of what you're doing, and then we're going to go in and commence on this particular piece here. All right, Caroline, so how do we proceed from here?
Okay, now we've put our first lines in, and from there I like to contour map. It gives it a more three-dimensional quality when I'm finished if I take this time to do this first step. So what I'll be looking for in my reference shot is like the fingers, they'll be circular. So I will start by creating, with my handy little scalpel, some contour lines. And it is probably a good idea to tilt your board around as you're working rather than try and bend your hand backwards and make more errors. So I'm looking at this finger here. And I'll be going along doing this on every part of it as I go, because this is so mesmerising. Quite often you'll be working, you'll get caught in the moment, and you'll look and you've made a big boo-boo. So I do little lines just to keep my mind on it, and that way I can be listening to the telly or whatever, and I haven't lost track of where I am. So I start with the crosshatch. So the first lines are going to be going in one direction only, and as you can see, they're very tiny lines, but always paying attention to the direction and the form of whatever I'm doing.
So it seems, looking at your work, that your favourite subject matter is obviously the human form, and some of the detail that I've seen, which we'll be screening up, is just quite extraordinary. They're like photographs. They literally are like black and white photographs.
I try to avoid making them fully like a photograph. I've had an experience where I was demonstrating one day and I'd done a pastel dog and I'd done him so real. Someone walked up and brought their friend and she said, "Hey, look at this." And now the friend looked at it and went, "Well, it's just a photo," and dragged her off. So I like to leave portions unfinished so that you can see the hand of the artist.
Sure, absolutely. So how long would it generally take you to do one of your work? Say something like this from start to finish. How many hours would be involved in that?
50 odd hours per piece, so this size.
It's a fair bit of time.
Yes, but I enjoy every moment of it. Anyone that I've shown it to, they all love it for the one reason, is that it's very meditative. It's You're just quietly scratching away. You can be listening and doing other things.
You're a very diverse artist. Now we're screening up a lot of Carolyn's work as well, and you've got a series that you have done called the Q series, which I think is really quite whimsical. They're very dynamic pictures that are colourful and really referring to everyday life from what I can see. And a lot of those, you actually take commissions on those, and you've done some where you've done sort of family portraits in this really whimsical style.
Oh yeah, I really enjoy that. Each of the Q series that I do, I like to make it a story where the viewer can put the story together themselves. Rather than an obvious picture, I might have one with a mother and son, and she's reaching down but they haven't quite touched. So that your mind fills in the gap that in 2 seconds time they will touch, and that seems to resonate with people.
Sure. But there's beautiful work, and you're very, as I said, very diverse, from oils to pastels to acrylics, and obviously scratchboard, which seems to be your favourite.
Oh, everything I do in that moment is my favourite.
Okay.
And then I'll miss pastels, so I'll go and do pastel, and that's my favourite, and paint.
And I think that this is part of the reason people enjoy Colour in Your Life. It's that journey that the artist takes. You know, that special time that you can go into somebody's studio and see how they actually do everything that they do. It's very, very interesting.
Well, I'm like a child in a candy store. I want to do everything. And there's not enough hours in the day.
Well, you've had so many commissions that you had to do, which is a great thing.
Very busy with the commissions.
Which is great.
You can use inks on this medium. Quite a few people do, and I'll be showing that later in the actual flame in the first piece you saw. And
that's really to sort of highlight various areas. I mean, if you wanted to, the hand that we saw beforehand, I mean, could you really sort of paint that as though it was a flesh hand?
Yes, you can.
You can, okay.
You can.
Okay.
There are various inks, and it's some people actually use pencils or Prismacolor type inks.
Yeah. All right, Carolyn, well, you've come a fair way on that, and it just sort of gives us an idea of how you go about initially putting down, I mean, really it's just sort of a coat, I suppose, isn't it, to find out where you want to go with this. But you've got another one here that we brought up beforehand, and which is a baby's, looks beautiful. It's a baby's hand inside, obviously, a father's hand. And I think on this one here, you're going to actually show us some more highlights, or really pick those highlights up in comparison to this one.
Yes, this is the second stage. There are many layers involved in this work. I've also done a little bit of tonal mapping. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that. So that as I'm working, it makes my job far easier when I get down to the third and the fourth area. So I've contoured around each of these. From here, I'll use my reference photo, and I'll be choosing the lightest part to work from and the darkest part to leave, so that it will set the scene for the rest of it. Now, the lightest part for me, what's standing out, is this area here. So I'll start my scratching from there.
Okay.
And this will be the second scratching layer.
Okay. This is really, I mean, that's really mid-tones all the way through, isn't it? What you've got there. And then you see the darker or lighter that we go from there.
Yeah, and I will be scratching out more of the light to bring through the white, and leaving some areas very much undone. So you notice I'm moving the board around with me, and I should really be moving my reference photo around at the same time.
Yeah, I always find very important thing to do, whether you're doing the scratchboard or drawing, is it's just really important to be able to manoeuvre the board around because of the natural arch of your hand as well.
Yes, that's right. And with the scalpel, I have to be directional, so you can't be working at weird angles, or your lines are going to be strange, and you may dig in far harder than you need to.
Okay.
So starting on that edge of the fingernail.
And obviously continuously referencing to your picture.
Absolutely. As in all art, look twice, do it once.
That's a good idea.
I can still be fairly rough at this stage, but in the top few layers I'll show you on the next one I have to slow down and pick out points specifically.
Sure. You don't get RSI, do you? Repetitive strain injury.
Well, it's interesting you should mention that. If I didn't take a break every hour, by the end of the day I'm struggling. So the best thing you can do is put on a CD of music. When the CD's finished, get up, stretch everything, shake your hands, relax your shoulders, or else you can't go all day.
Sure, sure.
Plus your eyes tend to get very tired by the end of the day. Quite often I'll work on these up to 6-7 hours at a time. And
this is really an art form, or scratchboarding itself is an art form that is not particularly well known, is it?
No, very unknown in Australia. In America, they've been doing it for years and there's a lot of background material there and a lot of information. When I took it up at first, there was hardly anywhere I could go for help, and I started searching the art forums and came across a scratchboard group in America. And that's where I got most of my tips and tricks from, and I still do have a look there.
All right, Carolyn, you just really taking out as much of that black as you possibly can to start to get those highlights in.
Yeah, but there will be another 2 or 3 layers of this done too.
Which is the mind-boggling part about it. But you've been doing workshops as well with your work, and I think that it's, particularly because there's not too many people that do this in the country, I think it's a great idea that they get in touch with Carolyn about the fact that she is so outrageously good at doing this. And there's not a lot of artisans in Australia that I would think that have the skill that you have in producing this type of work. So I would suggest that if anybody is interested in learning how to do scratchboard, and it really is a fascinating way to, once again express yourself with art, but to get in touch with Carolyn, and you can obviously arrange to talk to those people and do what you need to do.
Yes, they can look on my website for contact details.
What's your website address?
carolynhenryart.com. No AU, just .com, and they'll find the scratchboard page on there.
Nice and simple.
I've included some basic things that we're covering today, some information, and some links to useful sites to learn more, and where to purchase your boards and such.
Okay, excellent. Okay, from here, Carolyn, we're literally gone through all of these various stages to get to a place which is an amazing piece of work. But you're going to work on this and show us some other things, plus also put some colour into the flame up here.
Yeah, I thought it'd be nice to highlight that point and just trial a small amount of colour.
That'd be great. So, all right, well, I'll give that to you. I'll take these ones out of your way.
Thank you.
Okay.
This piece is almost complete. I've done around 5 layers on this very bright side here. I've left a small amount undone here to just show you those last pieces. So picking up my favourite tool, scalpel as usual.
Yeah.
There is about 4 layers on this piece here, but in the photo...
Yeah, there's our photo. Excellent.
There's our photo.
There you go.
So in our photo you can see that I've drawn out all my lighter colours, lighter shades, sorry.
Yes.
And I just need to finish off this part here. And you may wonder why I don't just pick up a piece of steel wool or a blade and remove great amounts at once, but I've found in the past that it flattens the picture and takes away the artist's mark making, which is important.
It's a real slow gradation to get where you need to go. This isn't a technique that you can really rush, is it?
That's right, you have to be careful and precise with it. In the early stages you can get away with a little bit, but once you get to the 3rd and 4th and 5th you have to think about what you're doing. And
you can see the intensity of that white really starting to pick up, just bit by bit by bit, isn't it?
Yes, and I do have one more trick up my sleeve with the white areas. As I said, I like to show my mark making, so I don't want to completely take the white to the extreme. Picking up the handy pen and giving it a very light going over. This one takes a wider amount out, but I don't want to get too heavy with this. From here, I would like to put the first coat of ink on my flame. because it has to dry. It takes about 15 minutes for the ink to dry, and you can't work it while it's wet because you're working on clay. If you wet clay, you end up with a sludgy mess.
Okay.
So you put your inks on, then you go away, do something else, and then come back when it's dry.
Okay.
So today we're going to use the scratchboard ink, the
Okay.
yellow, and I'm only going to need probably 1 drop because it goes a long way as ink does.
Okay.
I like to put it into a container.
So is it just you've got water in there already, or just on its own, is it?
I'll be using this undiluted,
Okay.
but if I was doing a wash, I would of course dilute it.
Sure.
So rather than make a big mess,
Okay.
I'll go for the container.
No problem.
And brush. It's beautiful and bright when it goes on, but I'll actually be scratching out some of this
Okay.
to change the intensity of the colour where I want.
Yeah. And once again, this is specific ink for scratchboard.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But you can also use coloured pencil. There we go, we've got our yellow on.
So that takes about 15 minutes to dry?
Yes, and we won't touch it until it's perfectly dry.
All right.
So in that time, we'll just do a little more highlighting down in here.
Sure.
Right, well, the yellow's fairly dry now. I will be scratching a little bit out of it, but not very much, because a true flame's always a bit white at the top.
Yeah.
There's a little around the base.
Okay.
That should do it.
That's amazing. Absolutely wonderful. All right, another amazing day with a very talented lady. Carolyn, thank you so much for having us in your studio.
No worries, Graham.
It's great to be down here in Victoria. A little cold, of course. Freezing, in fact.
We try hard.
But it's been tremendous, and as you can see, from start to finish, obviously using the scratchboard techniques, a little bit of colour in there, but as you've seen through the process of us screening up some of Carolyn's work, it's really amazing what you can do, almost, photographic technique. I'd always like to thank our sponsors. Chrome has been right behind us these days. It's just wonderful what's going on. Lots of other retailers that know what we're doing, and the word's spreading right across the world these days about what Colour in Your Life's doing. So this is obviously going to be to all of the artists' advantage that are in the show. I mean, they'll be seen on a global basis, which is pretty cool. But before we go, I generally say put some colour in your life, but I think the black and white of it today, you know what I mean. Anyway, guys, till we see each other next time, make sure you put some colour in your life. We'll see you next time. Bye now.